Tell me what you see. Is this a picture of what true love looks like? Perhaps a serendipitous romance for the ages? Yes, we're talking about the marriage of Ivanka Trump, the daughter of Donald Trump, President of the United States, and Jared Kushner, who's from a family with very close ties to Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. And now they're trying to build some kind of fancy version of Epstein Island in Albania that just so happens to be on an old Soviet military base. And Trump has basically been giving Jared carte blanche over everything in the Middle East since 2016. Now, I'm sure all of this could be coincidence, just two people who fell in love representing two powerful geopolitical interests, and none of it was planned. But what if, and just hear me out, we humor the idea for a second that maybe, just maybe, there's a little bit more to this story.
My life has always been really rooted in my family. Mm-hmm. I'm lucky to be married to my best friend.
How do you guys talk about
me,
the tough days?
Lifts me up. He's my greatest champion. He's the best dad ever.
That's right, best dad ever, and definitely not a Mossad asset, and totally not a foreign honeypot operation.
When you look at what Jeffrey Epstein was doing, and you look at what Jared Kushner was doing, sort of being a, whatever you want to call it, right? Like a rainmaker, putting all these people at the table, trying to arrange scenarios to get certain results, working sort of with government, but also outside of government. Would it be completely crazy to say that Jared Kushner is working in an Epstein-like fashion?
I think the idea that we have a number of these shadowy figures like Jared Kushner, completely unelected, playing puppet master and controlling government officials has gone from fringe conspiracy to very much mainstream consensus over the past several years. I mean, after years and years of speculation, the Vice President of the United States basically went on Joe Rogan, affirmatively confirming that Jeffrey Epstein was an Israeli spy.
You know, look, he clearly had connections to the highest levels of American intelligence. He clearly had connections to the highest levels of Israeli intelligence.
But with Epstein now neutralized, let's just use those words, could Jared Kushner, as Tim Dillon suggests, be running a similar kind of operation today? And if so, just how did he maneuver himself into that position of power? Jared Kushner was born January 10, 1981, and raised in an influential modern Orthodox Jewish family in Livingston, New Jersey. His grandparents, Joseph and Ray Kushner, were Holocaust survivors from Poland, and his father, Charles, is a multi-billion-dollar real estate mogul and a major donor to pro-Israel and Jewish causes. More about him in a second. But among the regular guests in the Kushner household during Jared's youth was a then rising star in Israeli politics named Benjamin Bibi Netanyahu. Now, the bond between the Kushners and Bibi was so close that during one trip to New Jersey, it was reported that a young Jared Kushner once lent Benjamin Netanyahu his bed. Sleepovers with Netanyahu. Kind of reminds me of another alleged honeypot connection, Erica Kirk, and how she was hanging out with the son of Netanyahu before meeting and falling in love with Charlie Kirk. And not days after his assassination, the media company that runs the Charlie Kirk show officially registered as a foreign agent of Israel. Another coincidence, I'm sure, but I digress. Back to Jared. He was reunited with Netanyahu a few years later in 1998 on a tour of a Nazi concentration camp in Poland before flying to Israel to, quote, complete the journey from slaughter to Zionist rebirth. At Harvard, Jared Kushner was a core fixture and mega donor of the campus Chabad. Now, officially, Chabad is a global Orthodox Jewish movement known for running outreach centers. You've probably likely seen them in your city or community. And I would say in years past, I probably wouldn't have thought twice about it. But recently, Tucker Carlson alleged that Chabad was stoking the Iran war to advance a theological agenda on behalf of the state of Israel, namely the rebuilding of the Third Temple.
What is Chabad exactly? Well, Chabad, you can look it up, is a very old organization, about 250 years old. And it's a branch of Hasidic Judaism. It's an organization that was overseen for many years by a guy called Rabbi Menachem Schneerson, who was famously in Brooklyn, considered the Messiah by some of his followers, who was a friend of presidents, or certainly someone presidents visited. He was a very powerful man in the Orthodox and the Hasidic community. And he was the overseer of Chabad, which predated him and outlasted him, but he was its most visible ambassador. And Chabad has been pushing in a pretty subtle way, unless you look carefully, for the reconstruction of the Third Temple.
Now, just to be clear, we don't know if Chabad is a bona fide intelligence asset of Israel, although there certainly exists a nexus of shared Zionist donors, which has prompted even some American Jewish publications to criticize Chabad's recent quote-unquote extremist turn. Still, many Zionist and Jewish organizations condemn Tucker's statements as an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, to which I say the best ones usually are. Now, among Jared's mentors at Harvard was none other than law professor Alan Dershowitz, Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer. And this is where things start to get a little bit more juicy. According to an FBI informant in a document released in the Epstein files, Dershowitz told U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta that Epstein belonged to both U.S. and allied intelligence services, and that Dershowitz regularly debriefed with Mossad during the trial. For the record, this is a claim that Dershowitz has denied publicly.
I was Epstein's lawyer. I tried desperately to get him a good deal when he was first arrested. I went to the prosecution with everything we had. I asked Epstein over and over again, what can you tell me? Did you work for the government? Did you do anything for the government? If he had done anything for the government, first person he would have told would be me, and I would have gone to the government and say, well, you can't prosecute this guy. You have to let him off the hook. He's worked for the government. There isn't one iota of proof or truth to the claim that he worked for the Israeli government.
Now, wait a minute. If Dershowitz's claim is that if Epstein was Mossad, he could have gotten him off easily, which isn't that what happened? In a now infamous quote, when asked why he agreed to a federal non-prosecution agreement with Jeffrey Epstein, letting him off the hook with just state-level prostitution charges instead of a federal sex trafficking charge, Alex Acosta allegedly replied, quote, "I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone." So I'm not exactly sure the logic behind that particular line of defense, because Epstein did pretty much get off scot-free. Anyway, on page 2 of the same FBI document, the informant also alleged that Trump had been compromised by Israel and that Jared Kushner is the real brains behind his organization and presidency. So again, just to recap, we know for a fact that Jared Kushner has extremely close ties with the Israelis, including being close friends with Benjamin Netanyahu. He was also traveling to Israel on many occasions since he was in his teens, and also involved with the Chabad in college, and also he was a mentee of Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer. Those are all certifiable facts. But the question is, just how did he work his way into Trump's orbit? So the story goes like this. In 2007, Ivanka Trump is introduced to Jared Kushner by a Jewish diamond merchant named Moshe Lax, under the guise of business, with their first meeting being at a kosher steakhouse called the Prime Grill near Trump Tower. Just a little networking lunch, no big deal. Anyway, we're told that they immediately hit it off, but they hit a bit of a roadblock because she wasn't Jewish. Ivanka would then eventually agree to undergo a months-long conversion to Orthodox Judaism, and the couple married in October of 2009 at Trump National Golf Course in Bedminster, New Jersey. I'm going to go on a bit of a non sequitur for a second, but isn't the whole claim made by Zionists about Israel is that the Jewish people have been indigenous to that land for 3,000 years, but if anybody can just convert, do they still have the same claim to that land? Just asking. Anyway, mission accomplished for Jared, if such a mission ever existed. But I think to truly understand how Jared operates, we have to talk about the crazy story with his dad, Charles, who, remember, I told you I was going to get back to. In 2004, Charles Kushner was facing federal tax evasion and illegal campaign finance charges when he learned that his sister Esther and her husband William Schulder were cooperating with federal prosecutors led by Chris Christie, the U.S. attorney for the District of New Jersey at the time. Charles then proceeded to try and blackmail his own brother-in-law by recruiting a prostitute to lure him into a motel room rigged with hidden cameras to have sex with him. He then watched the tape and, according to a federal complaint, quote-unquote, expressed satisfaction, and later mailed the physical tape directly to his own sister right before a family gathering to terrorize her into silence. That, of course, did not work. She turned the tapes right over to the feds, and Charles eventually pled guilty to 18 counts of illegal campaign contributions, tax evasion, and witness tampering. Now, because of this, when Trump was elected president, Jared Kushner intervened to have Chris Christie fired from the Trump transition team for prosecuting his father Charles, saying that it should have never been prosecuted and that it was quote unquote something that should have been handled by the rabbis. That's what he said. I am not joking. I wish I was.
The day that Trump was naming me, he went into Trump's office and said, "You can't do this," and made the argument against me in front of me.
In front of you?
Oh, yeah.
And what was the argument?
I'm immoral, I'm a bad person.
And you're sitting there.
Oh, yeah. And said that, it should have never been prosecuted. It wasn't a crime. It was something that should have been handled by the rabbis.
Oh,
because it was a family dispute.
Oh. That's going to fuel some anti-Semitism right there.
And I was thinking to myself, I didn't know that Title 18 of the U.S. Code was under the rabbi's jurisdiction.
You really can't make this stuff up. And if you did, it would probably be deemed very anti-Semitic. But you can see, by 2016, Jared had fully transformed basically into Trump's primary political gatekeeper, a handler, you might even say. And he ended up securing a full presidential pardon for his father Charles in 2020. It's also worth mentioning that U.S. senior intelligence security staff initially denied Jared a top secret clearance over concerns regarding foreign leverage, they tell us, until Trump personally stepped in to override them. But once he was in, Jared was able to ingratiate the Trump administration with the upper echelon of global power, bridging Zionist megadonors like Sheldon Adelson with technocratic elites from the World Economic Forum, with the Rothschilds, the infamous European banking family with deep historical ties to both international finance and Israel. Speaking of which, in a recent interview, Ivanka claimed that her and Jared just happened to stumble upon this untouched Albanian island on a boat ride, which they are now working to build a luxury resort on.
I'm working on an incredible project with my husband in the Mediterranean. It's massive in scale.
I think that's an understatement. Can you explain?
Yes, it is.
There's no power on this island. You're building everything from scratch, correct?
Well, it's an unbelievable, beautiful 1,400 hectare private island in the middle of the Mediterranean. We were on a friend's boat and we stopped for a swim. Effectively, that's how we found it. We swam to the islands. We went on a hike, barefoot all the way up to the top, and we were just captivated.
Does anybody actually believe Ivanka and Jared hiked barefoot to the top of this remote island? Because the truth is that they were on a super yacht owned by Nathaniel Rothschild, who is a close friend of Jared's, when they went to that island. And despite how she described the island as some kind of remote, pristine, untouched land, it's actually an old Soviet military base with miles and miles of tunnels and 3,600 bunkers. Epstein Island 2.0? Anybody? Maybe? Allegedly? Anyway, perhaps most important is that Jared Kushner has been the chief architect and primary driver of Trump's Middle East strategies in both his first and second term. For example, in 2016, Jared played a key operational role in the decision to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, something Israel's been wanting for decades. He also convinced Trump to recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights after reportedly giving him a quick history lesson. That's all it takes, a little bit of education, a quick crash course in history, and voila. Jared was also a key architect and negotiator of the Abraham Accords, which normalized relationships between Israel and the UAE, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco. In 2021, Jared secured a $2 billion investment from Saudi Arabia's wealth fund and began routing that Gulf capital directly into Israeli tech and defense-linked companies, basically creating what I would call an economic web where the capital from these Gulf states is directly now tied to Israeli stability. And recently, he's been central to Trump's Middle East efforts post-October 7th, including the plan to turn war-torn Gaza into a luxury Mediterranean destination. Just funny how all of Trump's endorsed Middle East policies have been quite favorable to Israel, including now fighting a war he promised he was never going to get us into, even though he famously rebuked Israel when he was first running for office back in 2015.
I know why you're not going to support me, and you're not going to support me because I don't want your money. He raised $125 million, which means he's controlled totally controlled by the people that gave him the money. That's why you don't want to give me money, okay? But that's okay. You want to control your own politician. That's fine. What's really important to me is the United States and making it great again.
Gee, I wonder what changed between then and now. And what I'm insinuating, of course, is whether all of this is proof of a covert foreign intelligence operation, the honeypot of honeypots, where Kushner was able to, through marriage, acquire a seat at the table with Trump in order to do the bidding of a foreign country.
anyone with Ivanka would be a power couple. So it's, she's really amazing. I mean, when we started dating, I told her that if I wasn't so attracted to her, she'd just be my best friend.
Honestly, we don't know for sure, even though there are multitudes of coincidences here. But I would argue in a way, it almost doesn't really matter. I think the reality is that the reason so many people, myself included, gravitate towards these kinds of grand espionage plots is due to the fact that it gives us kind of a weird sense of comfort. Because I think it's easier to believe that it's not our government that is corrupt, it's just that it's been subverted by some rogue outside force. But what if the truth is much simpler? What if the American government wasn't infiltrated by a covert Mossad operation, but simply sold out in broad daylight to the highest bidder? Donald Trump was handed a $250 million check by Miriam Adelson to be more pro-Israel. Thomas Massie, a sitting Kentucky congressman, was targeted and ousted in a $32 million plus primary campaign heavily financed by the Israel lobby simply because he repeatedly voted against foreign aid and foreign intervention. And it goes without saying, vast swaths of the American media and digital ecosystem are now under the stewardship of pro-Israel mega donors and billionaires. Look, I just want to say I've traveled to many parts of this country. I see beautiful people, wonderful folks from every walk of life working hard every single day, but I also see roads and bridges continuing to crumble. I see housing costs skyrocket. I see local communities rotting from the inside out. And when the average American looks around and watches all their money, all their hard-earned tax dollars shipped off in the tens of billions to fund foreign wars and overseas real estate hubs, we want and deserve an explanation. And I don't know what the answer is, to be honest with you, other than, for one reason or another, be it an elaborate honeypot scheme or just standard DC swampy corruption, the American government has just simply decided to stop putting Americans first. Simple as that. That is it for me today. Let me know what you think about Jared Kushner. Was he a Mossad honeypot, or maybe just a reflection of what business as usual looks like for America? Sound off in the comment section below. Also, I love putting together a more comprehensive piece like this for you guys. It's fun for me. I get to dive into the research, but it just takes a little bit more time and effort. So if you want to see more pieces like this, please support my journalism. You can go to my website, 5149jameslee.com, sign up to become a member, or there's also an option to give a one-time donation, no subscription necessary, or you can buy some merch, including the brand new Bureau of Honeypot Investigation shirt, which comes in green and blue. I'm wearing the green version right now. I think it looks pretty sick. It's super cozy, and picking one of these up is just one of these ways that can help keep me insulated from corporate media and advertisers. But if you can't right now, no worries at all. Please just do me a big favor and hype this video, give it a thumbs up, share it, subscribe to the channel, turn on that notification bell so you can be the first to know when my next video drops. As always, thank you so much for your time, and I will see you in the next one.
It's the master plan, and we're working with a group of people who have been working on master plans for the last 2 years.
So there are plans already.
Yeah. We have plans already. We have a master plan already. And by the way, Jared's been pushing this, and we're working together on it. And I think if the world saw the progress so far, they'd be pretty impressed.